G'day guys, Will here, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our quick look at the F28-SC from Ascher Racing. So I've been thinking long and hard about exactly how I want to approach the next couple of videos here. Obviously we've got a lot of stuff to go through with the Simucube 2, the new mounting bracket that I have here from HRS as well, which we're going to be using to mount onto our next level racing GT track cockpit. And I know that you guys have a lot of questions around things like the software integration and stuff like that. So what I thought I'd do is break it down into a few smaller videos rather than doing one massively long video. That way we can really get granular with the detail and really cover a lot of stuff. So the focus of this video is going to be the hardware of the steering wheel specifically. We're going to have a look at the build quality, you know, what the tactile feedback is like through the shifters, the buttons, you know, all the edges, you know, the fit and finish, the amount of flexibility and, you know, things like that. What I'll do then is a separate video probably later next week once I've had a chance to sort of, you know, acclimatize myself to the new ecosystem and really get into the detail of the software setup and stuff like that. We will of course do a first drive video as well. I think that's really important, you know, for you guys to see what it's actually like to drive something like this for the very first time. But I want to make sure I'm answering as many of your questions as are possible. And I know that a lot of your questions sort of revolve around the software side of things. How easy is it to set up? You know, how does it integrate? You know, how does it compare to Fanatec's ecosystem in terms of, you know, ease of use and things like that? I know there's also a lot of questions around the wireless system as well. We will be addressing a lot of those in this video, but the primary focus here is going to be the hardware. So anyway, let's get this guy out of the box and take a closer look. Okay, so we'll give you a nice close-up shot for this unboxing because I don't want to miss any of the details of this guy. Very, very excited. So what do we have in the package here? We've got a little envelope with, let's have a look in here. Got some little stickers. So we've got our white stickers and our black stickers, and you can see every single conceivable thing that you can imagine that you'd want on a sticker is there. So that's a really nice inclusion. They look like they're really nice high quality stickers as well that are going to last the test of time. Definitely the same sort of quality that I've seen with, you know, Motec dashes and things like that you get in real life race cars. So that is a good sign to begin with. Now, I believe this is going to be our, yep, this is our SQR adapter, the 70mm adapter from Ascher Racing as well to fit onto our Simucube quick release, SQR. So we'll have a look at that in more detail in just a tick. We'll lift this up. Now, this little piece here, I believe, is the replacement magnets for the shifter. So let's just quickly pop that out there, have a quick look at it. So we've got a couple of different combinations here that we can use for different sort of feels on the action of the shifter. And we'll have a look at that in more detail later. I'm not going to make you sit through that now when we haven't looked at the wheel yet. We've got a little bag of screws and fixtures here as well to mount it to the SQR. And then the wheel itself. So let's get this outside of the bag and the box. We'll set the box aside. And oh boy. There we go. So man, this is no compromise kind of stuff here. I think that, you know, the approach that they've taken with this is obviously, you know, straight away I can see that it's not made to a price at all. It's basically like they've gone, let's make the best possible quality wheel we can, and whatever it costs at the end of the day is what it costs. And that definitely shows in the quality of the craftsmanship. Even just the little things like the, you know, the machined edge here, so there's no sharp edges or anything like that. Absolutely beautiful craftsmanship. The Alcantara feels like, you know, the real stuff as well, nice, and it actually feels exactly the same as the wheel that I had on my BMW M235i. So very, very, very beautiful. And I'm sure one of the things you're wondering about is with the open base, is there any flex at all? And I can see there, again, with my girly arms, but I cannot make that budge at all. And as well with the shifters, I can pull on that as hard as I possibly can and it does not flex at all. So beautiful action on those shifters as well. That's actually set to the maximum strength by default, and we can adjust that. I'll show you that in just a moment. But yeah, that is absolutely beautiful. But just look at the quality. You got your little Bluetooth antenna there. That is a little window where our battery sits, our lithium battery, and we'll go over the details of that in a moment as well. On-off switch there as well. And it looks like, looking at the serial number there, it looks like this might actually be the very first one that they made. You can see F28-SC AB0001. Hopefully this will be worth a lot of money one day. But we've got 28 inputs on this wheel. There's a very good reason for that, which I'll touch on in a moment as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 individual buttons. And then we've got 2 7-way funky switches, as Fanatec call them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. rotary encoders for 5 and 6, and then push down for 7 as well. So a total of 28 inputs. Now, there's a very good reason, as I mentioned, why there's only 28 inputs on these wheels. And that is basically a limitation of the Bluetooth system that is built into the Simucube 2. So I'm told that the guys over at Granite Devices are working on an advanced Bluetooth module, which will be an easy upgrade to the SC2 or the SC1 as well. If you want to go the Bluetooth option on the SC1. And that's going to expand the functionality all the way up to 64 inputs plus 2 analog access as well. So that will bring us close to what we have with our Fanatic V2 formula wheel here. So you've got multi-position switches, thumb encoders, you've got, you know, additional analog paddles and all that kind of thing on here. Now, admittedly, a lot of that functionality on the Fanatic wheel I don't use. I don't use the top paddles. You know, I've never used the multi-position switches or particularly missed them. In fact, the only thing that I really use on this wheel that I think I might miss is the ERS and fuel trim switches as I use them in F1 2018. But other than that, I mean, the LCD screen and the LEDs are nice to have, but definitely not necessary. And I mean, most people that are going to be buying a wheel like this are going to have some sort of LCD display, I would imagine anyway. So definitely not something to be put off by. But I mean, when you compare the build quality of the two wheels, just while we have it here, I mean, the carbon fiber is nice, but there's a little bit of flex there. You can feel that it kind of just feels a little bit plasticky, and the quality of the Alcantara just, you know, you can tell that it's a little bit thinner on the Fanatic wheel than what it is on this one. This just feels, you know, the Fanatic wheel feels like it's been made to a price. I mean, it's a very good wheel, but it definitely feels like it's made to a price, whereas this just feels like a no compromise piece of equipment altogether. So while we're on the subject of inputs, I also just want to comment on these buttons as well, because that was something that I noticed straight away as soon as I pressed them. They're plastic caps on the buttons and they feel really nice, but the actual action when you press the buttons just feels absolutely amazing. And it's hard to describe it. It's kind of got this sort of rubberized kind of contact. So you push it down and you feel a little bit of resistance before it clicks. And then the click is really, really sturdy. And I'm gonna hold that up to the microphone quickly and let you just listen to it. So you can hear there's no rattle at all. It just presses in. And if we hold up the Fanatic wheel by comparison, so our Formula V2 wheel again, you can hear it just has a much more plasticky kind of feel. I mean, the difference isn't massive, but the buttons have a little bit of wiggle in them. They play around just a little bit. And it's just one of those little details that goes into explaining why these do cost so much money. It really is absolutely cream of the crop, no expense spared build quality. But anyway, let's flip it over now and have a bit more of a detailed look at the various bits and pieces on the back here. So we've got a little on-off switch here, and that is to enable and disable our Bluetooth module. Now, the way this works is basically you've got a lithium battery that sits behind this little window here, and that is user replaceable. You just undo the 2 screws and you can order a brand new one. So let's have a quick look at the lithium battery here while we've got it flipped over. We're using a 1.5mm Allen key here. And I don't even like to pull the battery cover off this thing. I don't want to touch it, but these are the things we have to do. Take the little cover off here. So it's a 14250 model lithium battery, which is something that is available off the shelf. So you can order these online, or most chemists and places like that, camera shops also sell them. And I know that this is something that a lot of people are concerned about. Now, I asked Martin a lot of questions about this last night when I was speaking to him. And basically what he said was that the battery should last between 2 and 3 years at a minimum. And there you can see the battery is just there. So it's just a little lithium cell, 3.6 volt and 1200 milliamp hours. So a decent amount of juice there. We'll put that back on because I don't want to leave it off. I don't want to risk losing the screws or anything like that, getting my grubby fingerprints all over everything. But yes, it is a user replaceable part. And yeah, as I was saying, it lasts between 2 and 3 years. And that is with heavy use as well. So not really any problem. And I know that's one of the things that people were concerned about is with a wireless wheel, you know, your battery's going to be going flat all the time. And I think that we're kind of, with the smartphone and smartwatch and smart everything culture that we have these days, we've kind of become accustomed to having to recharge everything every night. And even me, myself, I kind of assumed that this would have a rechargeable battery in it and you'd have to sort of plug it into USB to charge itself up again every night when you weren't using it. But that is not the case. I'm just going to rub my little grubby fingerprint off here. And the way it works is actually really cool. We'll cover this in more detail when we do our software overview. But basically what happens is as soon as the battery starts to get low, so around sort of 2.8, 2.7 volts, the wheel itself actually beeps. Now it doesn't have a speaker inside it. What it does is it actually sends a tone through the motor itself to make sort of like a chirping sound. And I haven't heard it myself yet, so I can't comment on it. It'll also show up in the software as well that the battery is getting low. And you've still got at that point plenty of time to keep on using the wheel. So you can order a replacement and you don't have to worry about it going flat. But yeah, it's really important to understand that this is not a device that you're gonna have to charge up once a day or even once a week or even once a year. Once the battery's flat, it's flat, you replace it and you're good to go for another couple of years. So no worries there with regards to battery life. Now, one other question that I asked Martin as well is, do you need to remember to switch it off with the little power switch whenever you're done driving? Now, the reason I asked that is because I'm always forgetting to turn off my motion platform. I even forget to turn off my wheelbase half the time as well. So I know that I'm gonna forget to switch this off. Now, what he told me is actually really impressive. The way the Bluetooth system works with this ecosystem is basically the whole circuit essentially goes to sleep whenever it's not being used. So obviously there's no signal being sent when you're steering or anything like that because that's all just being handled by the Simucube. The only time that there's ever actually any signal being transmitted is when you press a button. So what they do is they actually have the system go to sleep whenever there's no detected input, and then it wakes up again as soon as you press a button. Now you might be thinking that would introduce lag, and that's another thing that I asked specifically about as well. And he told me that because of the way the system's designed, basically it's always ready to go. And as soon as you press that button, it wakes up, it sort of handshakes, it sends the signal, and it goes back to sleep again. And he said that there's absolutely no discernible lag there whatsoever on the input. So it's going to be really interesting to test that out once we've got it all hooked up. But yeah, I mean, if he says that it's the case, I'm sure that I can trust him there as well. But we definitely will test that out once we get it all fired up. Now, the way that it connects to the Simucube is really cool as well. And we'll look at that again in more detail when we look at the software. But basically, you switch it on, it goes into a pairing mode for 30 seconds. This also goes into a pairing mode for 30 seconds as well. So you don't actually need to do any sort of manual handshaking process like you often are used to doing with a lot of Bluetooth devices. Often you have to go into pairing mode manually, and then you have to choose the device, enter a passcode, things like that. So it's almost like it's sort of like a proprietary kind of Bluetooth protocol that they're using here. Handshaking all happens automatically. And obviously the idea is that you want to be able to just switch it on, drive, switch it off, and you're done. You don't want to be stuffing around with, disconnected devices, all that sort of stuff that can, when you've only got half an hour to go for a drive, you just don't want to be dealing with that kind of stuff. So again, really looking forward to testing that out. But the next thing I wanted to talk about now is ergonomics. Now I can say straight away, it feels really nice in your hand. It really sort of fits in the cup of your hand there really nicely. It feels nice and solid. And as I mentioned before, there's absolutely no flex in there whatsoever. The buttons all feel really nice as well. And the weight is something else that really impresses me. It weighs exactly 1 kilogram. And it's not so heavy that it feels cumbersome at all, but it feels like a really solid, nice piece of equipment. You know how sometimes things that are too light can feel a little bit cheap? It just has that perfect weight where, and it sounds silly, I feel silly saying it, but it really feels like they've kind of gone, all right, we want it to weigh this much because that's the optimum weight for a wheel. And then they've kind of gone out and designed something that weighs exactly that much. So absolutely perfect weighting in the wheel. Obviously adding the quick release system is going to add a little bit of weight to it, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it feels once it's connected to the wheelbase. So let's just have a quick chat about the little magnets that are included as well. So the little magnets that we have inside the box are 3mm wide magnets or 3mm diameter, whereas the ones that are pre-installed are 5mm. And you can also see there's some little spaces there as well. Now, Martin did mention to me that you want to be really careful how you store these. You don't want to have them loose inside a box because if they smack into each other, they can crack really easily. So by default, we've got 5mm magnets installed, and you can see there's one on either side there, as well as one on the opposing side here as well, so just underneath there. So what we want to do is if we want to adjust the actuation force, we're set at default at the maximum, which is 800 grams. If we want to reduce that, what we can do is we can use any combination of spacers and magnets to reduce the force. So I'll take you through quickly now the different ranges. So default is 800 grams. So if we install one spacer, and it doesn't matter which side you install the spacer, installing one spacer is going to take us down to 570 grams of actuation force. If we replace the magnets entirely with 3mm magnets on either side, that takes us down to 480 grams. Going with a 5mm magnet, so back to the factory default magnets, but with a spacer underneath each magnet, that takes us down to 440 grams. Using the 3mm magnets with one spacer on either side takes us down to 340 grams, and then 260 grams if we use the 3mm magnets with a spacer on either side. So a huge range there from 260 grams all the way up to 800 grams, depending on how you like the feel of your shifters. Now, for those of you who might be wondering, the diameter is 285 millimeters as well. Let's just quickly have a look at how that compares. A little tiny bit wider, but not by much. All right, so enough talk about the hardware. I think it's time to get our quick release mounted and get it installed onto our wheelbase. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Ascher Racing also included this SQR adapter, a 70mm version for me as well, to interface with my SQR that came with the Simucube 2. Now the Simucube 2 did come with this 70mm adapter as well, which seems to fit, and I believe that that would work just fine. But for the sake of completeness, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the one that was provided by Ascher Racing. I do think it looks just a little bit nicer as well. So that mounts basically there. We're going to mount our screws through here in the 70mm stud pattern. And then we're going to mount our spacer, which will go on there. Screws will go through that. And then the quick release plate will mount on here. Screws will go through that. And then we are good to go. Okay guys, so that is a quick overview of the hardware of the Ascher Racing F28-SC. And look, I've got to say, absolutely blown away by the quality of this. This is, you know, on the same level as the kind of gear that I deal with in the race car industry, you know, Motec type systems, Sparco, you know, OMP, that kind of stuff. This is absolutely up there with that quality of manufacturing, and it really is genuine automotive grade. So definitely a valuable asset to any high-end sim racing rig. So guys, if there's anything that you think I might have glossed over in this video in a little bit too little detail, do let me know in the comments below. I'm more than happy to jump back in and give you guys more detail. I also do have a direct line back to Martin Ascher as well, so I'm more than happy to ask him any questions, get those responses, and let you guys know in future videos. Now, as I mentioned at the start, we are obviously going to be diving into a lot more detail around the software integration, how all that works with the Simucube 2, how the wireless works, whether it's as easy to pair as they say it is, whether I get any dropouts and anything like that. We'll be looking at a lot of detail there, battery life and all those things over the next couple of years, hopefully. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching the video. If you do want to pick up one of these wheels for yourself, you can do so using the Ascher Racing link in the description below. I'll also have a link below to Granite devices for the Simucube 2 as well as HRS if you want to pick up one of these mounts that we'll be looking at in more detail very soon. But yeah guys, I'm absolutely itching to get this installed on my rig, but unfortunately I do have some sim racing, some league racing commitments for the rest of this weekend, and I don't want to be adjusting to a new wheel while I'm trying to be competitive there. So I am going to have to be a little bit patient, and unfortunately you guys are going to have to be a little bit patient too. But I would imagine that hopefully within the next sort of 5 days to 7 days, this will all be installed and we'll be able to get into some more videos related to it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.